Hey ladies, it's your girl Kaitlin back with another episode. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about this, but during this time, we are all skeptical about the future and spending a lot of time on social media. And I want to talk about the pressure to be more than you are. I think a lot of times we forget that our worth is like a river and that nothing can take it away, and that our worth is not determined by our humanly capabilities. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be more than we are when what we are now is just fine. During this time, be careful of people pandering to you to be more than you need to be to increase your self-worth. And what I mean by that is there always seems to be this quote unquote call to action for greatness, but I think it's sometimes a cloak for capitalizing off people's insecurities. And a lot of times it can feel like you are unworthy if you don't achieve a certain status or habit or productivity level, and it can feel like a moral responsibility. It's like, can I not just endure and survive this pandemic without people expecting for me to be wearing a cape afterward? I know that sometimes those types of things are inspirational, but I think for me, I've had to check in with myself to make sure that I'm not being pressured into evolving out of a season of my life too quickly. I saw a quote the other day that said, after you survive this crisis, consider it your second life. And that just felt like a lot of pressure to me. Like, why do I have to have this big life change or epiphany after this pandemic is over with? Is it not enough for me to just survive and go back to the way that I was living before? Now, I'm not saying it's anything wrong with that, feeling inspired by stuff like that. But what I'm saying is that it's okay if you don't. It's absolutely okay if you come out of this crawling or taking baby steps or just regular. Our lives have just suddenly been interrupted, and it's okay for it to feel traumatic. It's okay for you to just get through it. It's okay for things to go back to normal. I know I said no. I know that there's a lot of talk about how this pandemic is a message from God, and it could be, and honestly, it could be for some, but for others, it could just be an experience. It could just be something that happened that benefited you in some areas and didn't in others. I don't think that we need to glorify this experience. And I'm just speaking from what resonated with me and came up when I seen that quote, because I was like, no, I refuse to get on a hamster wheel to prove that I survived and came out better. The fact is that I'm always evolving and growing, and it doesn't necessarily require a pandemic to do so. And it doesn't require huge leaps of steps and bounds in order for me to be considered great. So that's all I wanted to say about that. Other than that, everything has been copacetic on my end, and I hope the same for you all. In today's episode, I'm going to touch base on a few topics that has been on my mind and heart. I'm going to talk about things that make me feel good and what that means for me, the concepts of self-awareness and self-consciousness from my perspective, and a budgeting Excel sheet that I created for my budget. I know that these topics seem random, and it's because they are, and that's okay. Remember, life is a buffet, and you can take what you like and leave the rest. So let's get to it. The first topic I'm going to talk about is about something that makes me feel good. I believe that life is supposed to feel good, and the part of my journey that I am on is where I am transitioning from self-consciousness to self-awareness, and part of that requires for me to check in with myself to see what I like and what I don't like. So something that I found makes me feel really, really good are instrumentals in jazz music. When I listen to that type of music, it just makes me feel sexy, happy, and content, just depending on the type of beat that I'm listening to. It just raises my mood, you know? Y'all know how when you're watching a movie and the music and what's going on makes you feel a certain way, it invokes an emotion. That's what that type of music does for me in my daily life. And I think it's worthy to talk about because this for me is progress in my self-like journey. It's progress for me knowing that I recognize something makes me feel good and I do it and I implement it into my daily life for no other reason than because it just makes me feel good. I give myself permission to feel good unconditionally. I don't have to earn it. I don't have to do anything extra. I can do things for myself that makes me feel good. And it's something about owning that makes me feel empowered and love for myself. Jazz music and instrumentals are one of the things that I realize makes me feel freaking amazing, okay? Like I said, it's part of this journey of self-like. I like me. I like things that I like, and I appreciate saying no to the things that I don't like. I appreciate recognizing that, you know, certain things don't make me feel good and honoring that. I always thought that it was a self-love thing that I needed to deal with, but now I believe that the first step before I can love anything is to like it. So, what I would like to know is, what is something you do just because it makes you feel good? Because when we are in autopilot, it's easy to feel pain and not know why. It's easy to feel pain or act out in aggression toward other people and blame others. But when we pay attention to ourselves, becoming aware of our personal human experience, it gives us control over how we feel and ultimately our happiness. When we know what we like, we can add more of it into our lives and create better lives for ourselves. All right, on to the next topic. The next topic I want to talk about is the concept of being self-conscious versus self-aware. When you are self-aware, you know what you like and you don't like. You are more observant of yourself. But when you are self-conscious, you are aware of yourself, but from the point of view of how everyone else may or may not see you. I have been implementing more of self-awareness through compassion and curiosity. This is also in support of my self-like journey because I can clearly see what triggers me and I have the opportunity to adjust my environment accordingly. Like, for example, if I'm watching something, I feel discomfort, if it triggers me in a certain way, I extend my self-respect and compassion unconditionally, no matter what it is, and I either turn it off or I fast forward it. Whereas in the past, I wouldn't know why I was feeling away, or I would ignore my feelings or talk myself out of my feelings, and it would send me down a spiral of depression because if I'm not aware that something is triggering me and I feel like it doesn't matter, it's easier for me to project my emotions onto other things and people in my life. And it's harder for me to, cater to myself and nurture myself back into like a healthier emotional and mindset. So, I would assign my emotions to things and people that they didn't belong to. And a lot of my emotions have, went undealt with for a very long time. So one of the things that caused me to do that is this narrative that I had about myself being over dramatic, quote unquote. And it's because, growing up, people would tell me that I was being over dramatic, and so I sort of internalized that, but now it's like, no, girl, I'm not being over dramatic. I'm just being me, and it's too much for you, and that's okay. I don't have to tone my emotions down or wish them away. I have had to learn to deal with my feelings because I am someone who feels things in a big way, and that's absolutely okay. And it just might not be for some people, and that's okay too. Those just aren't my people who can help me deal with how I feel, or I can look to for empathy in those emotional areas. And I've accepted it. And also, if you are not used to adjusting your environment when you feel discomfort, it can make you feel hopeless, because it's like you don't have control over something and you're forced to suffer over it. You don't know when it's going to end. So my question to you is, are you able to pinpoint things that make you uncomfortable? And if you are, how do you readjust? A practice I have gotten into is checking in with myself on a moment by moment basis. How do I feel? That's a simple question that I ask myself, but sometimes we can have resistance with telling ourselves how we really feel, because we might be used to hiding our emotions from others, and so we do it to ourselves. Another way I can tell if I'm not feeling all that great is if what's coming out of me isn't great. So if I am overly critical or impatient, I'll be like, all right, girl, let's check in. What's going on? And I have these conversations in my mind, or sometimes, I'm talking out loud, but I make sure ain't nobody around. But sometimes I don't remember what shifted my mood. But that conversation is so important, because, checking in with myself, I have found, gives me a chance to readjust and go about my day in a much pleasant way. And sometimes, I don't do anything but notice how I feel, because simply just noticing myself means that I'm not looking outside of myself for someone else to do it. And it empowers me in a way that I am not codependent on others to give me what I need. Another thing that I have gotten into is asking myself, how can I nourish or nurture myself when I'm feeling down? Is one of those things that sort of push me to take action instead of being passive and running on autopilot. And that's also a form of reparenting my inner child. If any of this resonates with you, what I want you to think about is, how can you be more self-aware and give yourself what you need? All right, now I'm just zooming past these topics, y'all, but the next topic I want to talk about is this Excel sheet I created in Google for budgeting that I am super proud of and excited about, and I just want to share it for no other reason than my excitement about it. The reason I created this spreadsheet is because I had no way of tracking my money as I spent it. It was very easy for me to budget and then overspend, because keeping track of how much money I spent and how much I had left in my actual bank account alone left me with too much room to see that I had money and spend it, not realizing that the money was allocated toward different areas. It was as if I was looking at my bank account and spending money blindly. And so, like, every month I would make a budget, but because I don't know what my money is doing, technically, there was no real accountability, or no real vision of how I'm spending my money and compared to what I have budgeted. So this Google spreadsheet allows me to update my budget in real time on my phone or on my computer on the go. And it's quick and easy. And so when I do spend money, I can easily check how much I have left allocated in a certain area and update it as I go. It also gives me access to what my money is actually doing and where it is actually going on the go as well, in a more organized way. Because when I just look at my bank statement online, I see how much I have left and my actual spending is in order, but there's no way for me to track my spending and see how it aligns with the budget that I set. But with this Excel sheet, I can do that. And, I just love creating things, and it feels good to me to just sit at my computer and plug in the numbers, because I have mine set up to where the numbers calculate on their own, and so the math is minimal. It's not a lot of math, and I know where my money is going and what it is doing. And I honestly did not know that Google had such a extensive Excel sheet or program that you can use like this, but something just told me to try it out, and so far it has been really, really good, and I'm just super proud of it. And I've been playing with it every day. I've been plugging in my numbers when I spend, and it's just been keeping me more aware of what my money is doing and where it is going, and accountable, because it's right there. I have access to it. So ladies, let me know how do you manage your money? Are you a pen and paper type of girl, or do you like the electronic way? I'm a little bit of both, but I would love to hear from you. This is the end of this episode where we talk about the things that make me feel good, the concepts of self-awareness and self-consciousness from my perspective, and my amazing budget spreadsheet on Google Excel. Feel free to discuss what resonated with you on our IG page at hergems_podcast.